Master of Darkness for Sega Master System. Yes, at long last, viewers have been requesting this ever since I commented on Castlevania Bloodlines. So often I'm told if you like Castlevania, then you'll adore Master of Darkness. A bold claim for sure, though a fair assessment all the same. The similarities are readily apparent from the start. It's a side-scrolling action game with a gothic horror setting where you must defeat Dracula. Yeah, it's basically Castlevania. For whatever reason, Master of Darkness didn't receive an international release until it was ported to the Sega Game Gear as Vampire: Master of Darkness in North America, and In the Wake of the Vampire in Japan. I like that title. Sounds less generic than Master of Darkness. Honestly, I would have preferred Super Anglo-Saxon Demon Hunter X Victorian Bloodlust, but that's just me. In Master of Darkness, you're not the descendant of a bloodline cursed to fight Nosferatu. Instead, you're a psychologist known as Dr. Social. What kind of surname is that? Anyway, the story takes place in London, England circa 1888. I'm guessing here since Jack the Ripper plays into the plot. In fact, he's the first boss you'll face. With the aid of a Ouija board, Dr. Social is warned of a vile supernatural plot orchestrated by Count Mason to resurrect Dracula himself. The clues will lead the good doctor to the Thames River, a house of wax, the cemetery, a laboratory, and the dreaded labyrinth. These stages are overrun with creatures of the night, like ghouls, well-dressed muggers, bloodthirsty bats, wild dogs, wax sculptures, poltergeists, and skeleton warriors, just to name a few. Each level, or round as they're called here, is 3 or 4 stages in length. The final stage is generally reserved for the boss, like Jack the Ripper, as well as a wicked Taco Bell fart in the shape of a skull. Why a Taco Bell fart? Because if it were Chipotle, it would kill on contact. Trust me. You then fight Count Mason twice before you reach Dracula. There's a primary and secondary weapon, the latter of which you need to press up and attack in order to use, just like Castlevania. Now, for the primary, you'll start out with a knife. It's the weakest weapon, and you want nothing to do with it beyond this first stage. Thankfully, you can trade up. We have a sword, a hammer, and an axe. The axe has a short range, but it's stronger than a Chipotle fart. Yes, I have a fart scale, so sue me. For the secondary, you'll find a gun, bombs, boomerangs, and a stake. How's a boomerang more powerful than a gun? Shame it couldn't be a crucifix. I guess that would have crossed the line with Konami's lawyers. Crossed the line. See what I did there? Never mind. Okay, so many fans tell me that Master of Darkness is a better game than Castlevania. To be fair, I feel that's a bit subjective. However, there are aspects I enjoy more than Castlevania. With Master of Darkness, the story's more prominent. You're given a new chapter with the completion of every round. It's like a reward. In Castlevania, the narrative never makes an appearance except in the instructions. I like that the primary weapon can change. Castlevania would upgrade your whip, and that's fine. Here, the upgrade's a different weapon entirely. The variety is welcome and it adds a bit of challenge. These weapons can be found throughout the game whenever you hit these floating white masks. This can be a serious problem if you're not paying attention. You know how you'll whip candle after candle, never breaking your stride? It's no big deal, right? Just collecting hearts. If you're lucky, you'll find a cross that wipes the screen, bags of money, or whatever. Not here. No, you can accidentally pick up a weaker weapon, and this will happen right before you fight a boss. In fact, this happened to me many times because you're sent back to the beginning of the stage. Since you've got a ways to go, you'll forget why you died in the first place and repeat your mistake. Big tip, don't get complacent. Another improvement is that the stages aren't as linear. Once you reach the cemetery, you'll find areas that lead back or move forward. This comes into play heavily when you enter the labyrinth. It can be a pain in the ass, especially since these stages are timed, but that's half the appeal. My favorite stage is the House of Wax. Aside from the obvious cinematic reference that delights me to no end, it's surprisingly creepy. I expected them to come to life, yet it still took me by surprise. That and just the idea is unsettling. Kinda weird considering I like wax museums. Speaking of the stages, they look fantastic. When compared to Castlevania, they're more lush. Little details most players take for granted now, like these frenzied dials or turbulent waters. Even character sprites are bigger, rocking more detail and smoother animation. I'm not saying Castlevania looks like shit, okay? Not at all. The Master System has a faster CPU and more video RAM, so it better look fucking crisp. It's just that technically speaking, Master of Darkness looks more impressive. As for music and sound effects, no complaints here. Sound effects are what you'd expect, and that's cool, but that music is killer. It may not be as energetic as Konami's influential Monster Mash, though it certainly makes me feel as if the world's completely fucked if I fail. I like that. I get that vibe on the Tams as well as the Cemetery. The soundtrack amps up for boss battles, of course, though it kicks into high gear when you raid the laboratory, and it never lets up. The game shares some of Castlevania's frustrations, like these fucking bats with their erratic flight patterns or hopping back whenever you get hit. I especially hate these fucking eagles. They're assholes. The poltergeists are just as bad. How am I supposed to hit something that small? What the fuck is it anyway? A pair of scissors? A straight razor? You know what? Doesn't matter. In my opinion, the game's one major flaw lies in the boss fights. Not that they're hard, quite the opposite in fact. They're too easy. I have a harder time dealing with those eagles than fighting Little Miss Cantina Burrito. You can beat the first two bosses with the knife easily, and I feel that's kinda weak. Maybe the first boss, sure, but two? No way, that's just lazy. Regardless, I enjoyed myself immensely. Master of Darkness is the closest thing to Castlevania on Master System. I really wish the series had continued on Genesis or Saturn. It would have been interesting to see where the series could have gone. A deeper story, expanding on Dr. Social's character, maybe introduce a new villain with every entry. I mean, this time it's Dracula. They could have done the Mummy next, or even a werewolf. Tons of possibilities. We'll never know. At least we've got this one game, and that's something.